Hey, Gabriel Blake.
Hey, Gabriel Jose.
Where are we today?
Today we are both in San Francisco.
Correct, in San Francisco at the Phoenix Motel.
At the Phoenix Hotel.
Yeah.
Super close to my house.
Yeah.
Very far from your house.
Very far. I would say like almost 2,000 miles away from my house in Chicago. Yeah, at least. Like physically, geographically, very far, but pretty close in my heart.
Yes, of course.
And albeit on the last episode we mentioned that was going to be the last episode, we couldn't really complete this, I don't know how to say, age, because it's not even like a season, it's an age in our life of Gaybros Go to the bars. An era. Yep. That's a better word. Of Gaybros Go to the bars to talk about cinema, because Villeneuve just threw us a new Dune movie. That probably won't be the last. And we felt like we needed to actually talk about it under the same umbrella that we talk around the first one. So this is a bonus episode,
Final Gaybros talk about Denis Villeneuve.
Exactly. That's going to be like the name. For posterity, is like Gaybros talk about Denis Villeneuve. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Dune Part 2. I think that is the name. Yeah.
And whose pick was this?
I think that it was both. I think it was Villeneuve. Villeneuve's pick. Okay, if you want me to blame for it, you're already giving away how much you didn't like it. Yeah, it was my pick.
No, I'm not saying I didn't like it. I'm saying this was your pick, which is very different.
Sure, it was my pick.
All right.
Okay. So you have to vote first.
So if this was your pick,
I have to summarize
it. And I don't have any idea how I'm going to summarize this. This is a sprawling epic. It continues where Dune Part 1 left off, where Denis Villeneuve was like, we told you this was going to be Dune, but no, this is Dune Part 1.
Yeah.
And we didn't tell anyone until the movie was over.
Yeah, and they actually didn't mention anything until we saw like the commercials, like the billboards and the lights. They had a Part 1 in very small.
Very small.
Yeah. And they say like when the movie started, it says like Dune, and in Part 1 is smaller. And then at the end is that you realize that no, they are not going to be closing the shit. They're going to leave it open. And
not to give any spoilers, but that's exactly how Dune 2 Part ended.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have... Maybe we do spoilers, whatever. This is the last episode, so fuck everything. But yeah, I agree with you. It ended up with like, you wanted a resolution? You wanted like the story to be complete?
No. Anya Taylor-Joy joined the cast at the very end of the film. There's going to be more.
Yeah. Just be ready.
So I have no idea how to summarize this. This film picked up at the end of Dune Part 1.
Like 30 seconds later.
Right, where nothing was really revealed in Dune Part 1. And so we see Timothée Chalamet in Dune Part 2, where he essentially... You're going to have to help me with the names.
Sure.
So he's part of the House of Atreides. And he's taken over the Fremen.
The Fremen. He's becoming a lead for the Fremen.
Yes, he's going to take over the planet that has
Arrakis.
Spice. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the planet's name?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's ready to take over. His dad is a good guy.
His dad is dead.
He died in Part 1.
Correct.
Okay.
Oscar Isaac.
Yes. So Oscar Isaac died in a completely epic way, and the reason I'm confusing this is because I watched Dune Part 1 the day before I saw Dune Part 2.
Holy shit.
So, Oscar Isaac, that's his name, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he
was
betrayed by somebody one of his servants. But only because his servant had his wife stolen by his cousin?
Yeah, I don't remember. It's like if you're asking me to remember Dune Part 1, I'm sorry, I didn't rewatch it.
All right, that's fair.
And I think that you can be as ruthless as Villeneuve was on this, because there is no summary. There is not even like in the Star Wars movie that you have like this text that goes away. It's like, it starts, you see Dune on the screen, and the story goes away. There is no summary, there is no like remember that this is what... No, they may say like a couple of things about like your father died at the Harkonnen
It's just like, get ready, this is Dune Part 2.
Yep.
You should remember what happened 2 years ago.
Yeah, and it just touched the ground running.
All right, so if we go to Dune Part 2, we see Timothée Chalamet, whose mother, Rebecca Ferguson, is some sort of Virgin Mary who's pregnant with a special baby, but Timothée Chalamet, who's given the option to be saved and run away from Arrakis. And he's like, no, I have to stay on the planet with Spice, with the big worms. He needs to protect the Fremen. And it's
The Fremen.
very, very clear that this is a metaphor about Arabs with oil.
Yeah.
It's not that interesting.
Yeah.
But Timothée Chalamet learns the way of the Fremen.
Yeah.
And he falls in love with Zendaya, and they're initially skeptical of him. But quickly, Timothée Chalamet, he's prophesied to be the one who's going to save all of them, which is hundreds of years old prophecy.
Yeah, so the thing in the book, if I remember correctly, because I read it like 20 years ago, they play a lot with the idea of prophecies, of actually the chosen one, and the order that Lady Jessica, Paul Atreides, like Timothée Chalamet, mother, belongs to, the Bene Gesserit. Bene Gesserit. Yeah. Is that they have their own like prophecy about like the quest or something like that. Is going to be born, is going to be a male, is going to be, and they control the gender of the baby that they're going to be like bringing into the world. And it was not supposed to be Lady Jessica's like responsibility. It was supposed to be her daughter's responsibility to bring the chosen one. But Jessica gave like
Birth to a
father.
male.
Yeah.
So Timothée Chalamet should have been a man, or should have been a woman.
Yeah, and then when she actually had the baby, that would be the chosen one. But Lady Jessica, against the orders of the Bene Gesserit, because Leto Atreides, I think that it was the father's, Oscar Isaac, really wanted a boy, she gave him a boy for love. The Bene Gesserit are not supposed to be that. And that actually aligns too with the prophecy of the Fremen, that is like, a man from the stars is going to come and is going to show us the way and is going to lead us. So both of those, in the book it becomes a bit more like, are these like two different prophecies? Are they even like real prophecies, or is it just a coincidence? And the mother plays along with the idea of, let's use this prophecies thing for just like convincing these people into we need to attack the Harkonnen. And Paul is a bit more like, I don't want to be taken as a messiah. He's like, I feel pretty awkward because I'm not a messiah. I'm just like a regular person.
I just want to help.
Yeah.
And
I want to be one more.
He's not the religious zealot that his mother is. And his mother is completely taking advantage of this prophecy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but maybe it's true. Maybe it's a prophecy.
But we don't know.
We don't know, but maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But it becomes a quote-unquote reality.
So Paul, which is Timothée Chalamet, he believes himself not to be the Messiah, although I think he does believe himself to be the Messiah.
End, I think that towards the end when he drinks, this is like from the second part, but when he drinks the water of life, I think that they call it, and he starts having like those strong visions that is a bit more of clairvoyant about like how things are going to be like playing out, he realizes that it doesn't matter if he thinks that he's the Messiah or not, is that the only way for him to survive everything that is happening and just like getting the best outcome for Arrakis as a planet is playing the Messiah card.
But does he play the Messiah card, or in the film he states, I'm not the Messiah, I'm just going to help you. I'm going to help you free your people. I'm not the Messiah, I'm not the chosen one.
But for that, he actually plays the chosen one. Is there like a couple of speeches where he says that he's like, I'm here as the prophecies like debated, that they mention, and I'm here to just lead you to victory, and I know that the change that Arrakis has been waiting is out of hand because I will be leading you to it.
So we can get into the details of this film, but it's not that interesting. But ultimately, it's a conflict between the Chosen One and the enemies of the Fremen.
The enemies of the Fremen, and also for the Atreides, is the Harkonnen.
Yes, which is the cousin of the House of Atreides.
Yeah, then there are like some reviews towards the end that is a bit more. It's like, dude, don't bring like this kind of reviews on the hour 25. Hour 25. We also see the Emperor, that is Christopher Walken, with his daughter, that is Florence Pugh. that they're a bit like in the shadows. They have been manipulating the Harkonnen for attacking the Atreides. And from his perspective, is like the only way of solving this, it would be like just matching Florence Pugh like with one of these two houses for trying to alleviate like the tensions. Albeit the Emperor was the one that orchestrated the whole attack for killing Oscar Isaac in the first movie.
And at some point, Paul is like, he approaches Christopher Walken and he's like, step down, I'm going to marry your daughter.
Yep.
And she's like, okay, but just don't kill my dad.
Yep.
That's essentially the entire film.
Yeah, I mean, you can give like way much more because it's a 1,000-page fucking book with a lot of very weird names like Muad'Dib, Usul, Keis-Kashalar, and many other things that is like when you try to translate it word by word into the big screen is really, really hard to follow.
So as somebody who did not read the book and was not that into the film, which is me, do you feel like this was a decent adaptation?
I would say that this tried as much as possible to be as accurate to the original work. And it succeeded in giving like a lot of names and the likes, but one thing that I found mind-blowing is that the story in the book, if I recall correctly, it takes place over years, where he's with the Fremen and organizers, and all of the guerrilla that we see, all of the attacks that they are like visually impressive, is they take over the course of years. And in here it's like 3 months, 4 months, because Jessica is pregnant. She never gives birth to Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, so I feel like the film doesn't give any sort of indication about how time is moving except Jessica's pregnancy.
Yeah, and it makes you think that it's like, oh, maybe as this is a special baby, she's never going to give birth to her. But actually the daughter is a very crucial part of the story in the second part of the book and in the following books.
But we know, because Anya Taylor-Joy is the unborn daughter of Jessica, that there's a significant plot movement coming in part 3, which they haven't even announced.
Yeah, I feel pretty weird about like how that was handled, and I felt it's like you are choosing to adapt a lot of stuff here just for the sake of adapting it. You know, like just like translating a scene by a scene, you know, like specific chapters. Like at the beginning of the movie is like Paul is sent into the desert about like, you need to survive by yourself. That is also like pretty weird because at the end, the second part of the movie, of the first movie, was around him like start getting a bit more used to, sorry, not getting more used, but it's like trying to survive in the desert with the Fremen. And I felt like, oh, so now is when you have the need of sending him into the desert, and this sending him into the desert is like a 30 seconds endeavor, because Zendaya follows him, and then he's back. I just felt that the pacing is a mess. But this was like someone that really likes the book, and he thinks that it's more important to just adapt every single small thing that is represented in one way or another than actually doing something that is enjoyable to the audience.
So there's 2 questions here. Do you think this was a good adaptation? I'm asking you as somebody who read the book.
Yeah.
And the second question is, do you think this was a good film?
So I think that it tried more, as I was telling you yesterday, the thing that I was telling is that it tries harder to be a good adaptation than being a good movie. If it succeeds, maybe as a good adaptation, but also at the same time is missing like the daughter character. It just felt wrong to me. It just felt like, why do you want to be so accurate on everything else and you remove a character that it was important, you know? Because basically they consider her like a witch, about like this kid is just fully knowledgeable about the whole world since he's born. And she has like the wisdom of someone that is 100 years old.
This is Anya Taylor-Joy's character.
Yeah. It's like she's supposed to be like an important character. It's almost like a seer of sorts.
But she's completely unimportant in this film.
It serves like the role of people like looking at Jessica like, are you crazy? Are you talking with yourself or with who are you talking? when she's talking with the fetus in her body.
So, as a cinema goer, did you enjoy Dune Part 1?
I enjoy the visual spectacle.
And Dune Part 2?
I enjoy the visual spectacle. It's the same. It's like I live with the same idea of, dude, I'm pretty sure that people are going to say is that, yes, this is how you do this adaptation. It's not how David Lynch did it. And I agree that this is way closer to what the book was than David Lynch's adaptation. Now, I think that when you are doing an adaptation of a 50-year-old book, that it has more than 1,000 pages, and it's about like this sprawling epic that is more around the planet itself as a character, more than all of these world that happen around, I think that you have to have like a way better script than this.
So, as just a cinema goer, would you recommend Dune Part 1?
To like stepping from this room and just like talking randomly? No.
So, would you say you're a fan of sci-fi?
Yes.
So, as me, not a fan of sci-fi, I did not enjoy Dune Part 1, but I enjoyed Dune Part 2.
Oh, you enjoy more?
Yeah, for sure. There was enough action and story development that I felt like Dune Part 2 was like, oh, okay. I didn't mind spending 3 hours in this theater.
I just feel weird because I really like the book. And it's like a part of me was just looking forward to actually like just finish this story. So I feel also, sorry for the spoiler alert as we mentioned earlier, but I also feel scam that the story didn't
That they were
finish.
going to continue to part 3?
Yeah. It's like, and they closed it exactly in the same way that they closed the first one about like, hey, the story could continue for 3 more hours, or we could stop here, and we're going to go with the stopping here. But we leave it almost in a cliffhanger. That if I recall, the book ends up in a very stable point of okay, things have like scaled down, you know, and they escalated down, and there is going to be more story, but it doesn't have to happen right now.
So, spoiler alert, towards the end of this film, Timothée Chalamet, gives up on this idea that he's this very humble, I'm not the Messiah, don't worry, I just want to help you fight. And then he's like, no, I'm the fucking Messiah.
Yeah,
and there's a brutal fight at the end.
Yeah.
And that's the point in the film that became super enjoyable to me. I was like, oh, some action.
Yeah,
like,
we're going somewhere now.
Yep,
Yeah,
I get this.
Nope.
I don't like where it's going, but I'm happy it's going somewhere. Yes.
Yeah, and then it was over. So I feel
it ended like after this super bloody fight where, to be frank, Paul should have died. But he doesn't for some reason.
Yeah, because he's stabbed like 3 times. That I love.
But like brutally, like in the chest. Like these should have been like mortal. Like he should have died.
But he's the Messiah. Well, I mean, there is also like the power. The book does it like way, way better. But it's like as he's trained by the Bene Gesserit, it's like they can handle pain. And I think that there was something like, hey, you can contract like your muscles for just stop the bleeding in some specific way.
Which is introduced by Charlotte Rampling in Dune Part 1.
Yeah.
Which I would argue is one of the best scenes of the film.
Yeah, like that one when he gets like the hand inside the box. Yeah.
But also Charlotte Rampling gives the best performance of this film. Do you agree? Disagree?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not too much of a big fan of Zendaya.
Oh, no, me neither.
Yeah.
But Charlotte Rampling?
Yeah, Charlotte Rampling, it was good. And I was talking with a friend of mine that he read the book like more recently, and he was saying like they actually expanded the character of Chani like quite a bit. Is that they realized that they didn't use her too much on the first movie, and they push for just being more predominant on this second movie.
I haven't read the book, so that's just a disclaimer, but I felt like Jessica Ferguson's character was way bigger in the book.
Jessica Ferguson, the mother? Yes. Yes. I think that Chani was more of a love interest on the side, and here is almost like the voice of reason about like where at the beginning is aligned with Timothée Chalamet, you know, is that then it start like diverging, and she even talking is like, I will always love you as long as you remain you. So when she actually realizes about like, no, what he really cares is about stability, is that he doesn't care about like staying firm with who he is. And he cares more about like the galaxy or the universe or whatever. Is when she says like, nope, I'm out. That is it.
And Charlotte Rampling's character?
So Rampling was good.
No, in the book. Was it expanded, contracted?
I think that is more or less the same. It's a bit more of a, she's one of the biggest puppeteers in the back, and she gets played by Lady Jessica. By the mother.
Harkonnen?
No, not the Harkonnen. It's more about like a Paul Atreides and Lady Jessica.
But in the film, she comes to Harkonnen.
The Harkonnen. Yeah.
And she's like, look, do whatever you want, but protect my daughter. And they're like, okay, we'll try. But then they don't. They try to kill her.
They try to kill what? Florence Pugh?
No, Jessica Ferguson.
Tried to kill Jessica Ferguson.
The one who's pregnant with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, Lady Jessica, yeah. But they tried to kill her. Sorry, I mean, I watched it like a week and a half ago. I don't remember. They tried to kill her.
This may be in part 1, but I feel like Charlotte Rampling went to the evil, Harkonnen.
Yeah.
And says, hey, do whatever you want, but protect my daughter, Jessica Ferguson.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll protect your daughter in a weird way, but no, I'm going to
kill her. This is in part 1, I think. Yeah, when they actually do that arrangement and you realize about like the Bene Gesserit, they don't really care, and they actually said it is that we don't really care about like the big houses or anything. It's like we care about like the power and the continuity on the universe. They're a bit more of a stabilizing force, But it's like all of these concepts are, as someone that likes sci-fi, I like them, and I think that is that our universe is super appealing, but the problem is a very complex universe, and is that there are like ways of portraying this properly, and I had the feeling that trying to do a one-to-one translation to a movie is that then you end up with this kind of pacing, as you were saying, like towards the end, it feels like we're going somewhere where, you could have reduced like some of the complexity or some of the concepts, or I don't know, like just edit it down like quite a bit, and you could have a bit more of an appealing movie than instead of being like 2 hours and 40 minutes, would be 2 hours.
Yeah, I feel like, so I expected the story to resolve after Dune Part 1, and then they were like, no, this is just Part 1, Part 2 is coming, and I was like, okay, fine, we'll wait 3 years for this, and then Part 2 came, and they're like, no, we're not resolving this. And I just feel like that's a bad business model. And we shouldn't talk about film in terms of business because it's an art form.
But this is clearly business.
Yes, this is a major blockbuster that they promised us would resolve 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Yeah. And they're like, no, Part 2 is coming.
Well, and the funny thing is like, it's not so much about the resolution, because if, for example, I mean, you don't watch Marvel films, but with my ex, is that we went to watch most of them, and when like Infinity War came out from the Avengers, it's like, and it was supposed to be 2 parts. When the first part like came out and it ends up in a big cliffhanger, it's like people left like, holy shit, what I watched was super enjoyable, and now I'm waiting. I cannot wait for watching what it comes next. But people left excited. These people left the room, I don't know in your showing, but it left like it was a chore. It's like no one clapped, no one was excited. It just felt like it felt like we were in a bit of an obligation, contractual obligation to watch this. And as you said, it's like as it ended up like completely open-ended, it's like, dude, I feel like you have lied to us again.
After we were fooled by Dune Part 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that you don't stop this. But he actually, I think that there were like some interview before the movie came out, and he was saying that he was thinking on adapting the next book. Now, I read only the 2 first books, because the second one is not good. The first book, I love it, but the second book is not good. And I only started reading a tiny bit of the third book that he also wrote. It's bad. So they are like just exactly thinking as a business about like how much can we actually like keep adapting. And I can assure you, on the next book, things get really bizarre.
But it's interesting from a business perspective that I don't like this series. I don't like it's fine. It's a movie, whatever. but we're both pissed off about being deceived by Dune Part 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And we will both go see Dune Part 3. There's no question. We will.
I mean, I will watch it because, as I told you, as a visual spectacle, I liked it. I was like pretty appealed. Like that scene when they're in the Harkonnen homeworld, that fight that is black and white under the dark sun. I feel is that this is incredible. Is that this is visually like super appealing.
What do you think about downplaying the depravity of the Harkonnen? Because he's basically a pedophile.
Oh yeah,
and a rapist in the book.
Yeah, and also in the David Lynch movie.
100%.
Yep.
It's super creepy. Yep. It's not okay how it portrays gay people, but it's effective. And it's like, hey, this is a creepy guy that wants to fuck young twinks.
And torture them and killing them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So what do you think about them removing that from Dune Part 2?
I mean, I think that the point was already there, and he actually killed like several people, several of the servants that he had.
In the first film, right?
No, in this one. Is like when he was like just trying the knife, he's like, oh, here you go, this is a knife, and he started like just killing some of his servants. He's like, yeah, no, this guy is as sick as his father.
But I feel like, again, I haven't read the book, but I feel like they completely downplayed the intensity of how bad the Harkonnen were.
Well, it was already set up, there was already part of the, ambience or vibe for whatever information about that house, and I think that on the first one, the Harkonnen Baron, I don't remember the name, that is the father of Eric Skarsgård, they already set up that is like, this guy is terrible, Stellan Skarsgård. So he's a pedophile and he kills like these kids. So why repeating that? They didn't downplay it. It's more like he's no longer the biggest player. Now the player is Sting. Because remember, it's like this was Sting's character in David Lynch movie.
But I feel like this film, because it's a major blockbuster, has been watered down. And they couldn't show how depraved he was. They couldn't show that he was a gay pedophile.
So you're telling me that the first one was not a major blockbuster?
What I'm saying is the David Lynch version, that's shit. I'm not going to say it's good at all. I'm saying it was more effective at showing how creepy the Harkonnen were than this film, where they were like, no, we have to keep this PG-13, so we have to keep this family-friendly, that he can't be a pedophile.
But I thought that they were showing, like, the kids on the first one, no?
It's not that they didn't show that he was a creep, it's they didn't show how creepy he was, as I understand, in the book.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in the book, basically everyone has a bulb that he can interact with and killing them. That part is actually properly depicted in David Lynch's movie, and not his.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you would say the David Lynch version is effectively creepier than the Denis Villeneuve version?
It may be a tiny bit more disturbing, if that's what you were looking for. Or it's like, hey, this is the part that I feel like it should be properly displayed.
I guess I'm focusing on the creepiness of that gay character. But my point is, this Denis Villeneuve version is completely watered down.
I don't know if I agree on that 100%.
And again, you're the one who's read the book, so I'm asking. I'm not telling.
I will have to watch part 1, but I had the feeling that in part 1 we see kids. That is pretty implied. That is this guy is going to be abusing all these kids. And then we see corpses, if I recall correctly. That is that they just take them away in death.
So maybe I just wasn't aware of the subtleties of this film?
Well, but you may be right. That is that they may not want to show it on the screen. Because I think that in the David Lynch movie is that, okay, we don't see like pedophilia, but it's like we see how he murders like kids, like pretty openly. So, but at the same time, is that that's not my biggest concern, because I can tell you that the David Lynch version takes some liberties that they are insulting, but just insulting to the intelligence of the audience. And it's not like, oh, this is not how it happened in the book. It's like, no, It's not about like how it happened in the book. It's like this makes no sense when you think about it.
So I feel like there are a lot of material influences to consider. The David Lynch version, the book, Dune Part 1. If you're to look at Dune Part 2 exclusively as like a film to go see, how do you feel about it?
That is an entertaining visual spectacle. You know, if I hadn't, I think that it may be more enjoyable if you haven't read the book. Because like when you have read the book and if you really like it, and in my case is that I really like it, but I read it like 20 years ago. So it's not the same as I read it 3 months ago in preparation for this. Is that because in that case you're going to be like poking at, this is not exactly the same. I would say it's close enough. It's close enough, but I also feel like a cinema goer when I was asking my boyfriend some questions that we went together to watch it. It's like, so did you get this part? Or what did you understand about this? He was like, nope, I don't know what that means. It's like, and you actually told me at the beginning about like, you are going to have to help me with some of these names. So
I saw this film with my husband, who is a diehard sci-fi fan.
Did he read the book?
He did. He read all of them. And I actually told him about I told him, you told me privately, this book is what killed my desire to read. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it's a super dense book. It's like my book actually had like an annex at the end with all of these terms. Like
yes, because it's complex. It's a huge world that's built out. But you told me, it's like, after this book, I was like, no, I don't want to read something this dense and this boring, or I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, it's not really like boring. It's so dense, and it requires, at least for me, me like a lot of energy, and maybe it took me like, I don't know, like I was reading like pretty regularly other books. When I got to this book, I may have read like the first 50 pages, and then I stopped reading for months until it's like, I need to finish this book. And I read like the 900 remaining pages.
Over like a year, right?
Yeah, but it was like several times of, okay, I need to go back to this.
So my husband absolutely loved this book, and I was aware of that. I was aware of your opinion of the book that you read.
Yeah.
So I was very careful about expressing my opinion to my husband. But finally, after I was like, okay, I'm ready to tell him what I thought, I told him this film, Dune Part 2, exclusively, the Villeneuve version, it was entertaining enough, but it's completely unimportant. And I think in 10 years, nobody will care about this film. Nobody.
I agree. I mean, the only reason why I think that people may care about it is like if he's going to be releasing Part 4 at that point.
Which I'm sure he will, because Anya Taylor-Joy joined the cast of Part 2, and she was in it for like 30 seconds, but clearly they have plans for Part 3, Part 4, Part 5. There's going to be an entire Dune universe.
Oh my god, I'm so tired of this.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And like I said earlier, I'm not the biggest fan of Dune. It's fine. But I know that I'm going to pay to see Dune Part 3 and Dune Part 4 just because it's somehow culturally important. And that's impressive enough. As Denis Villeneuve, I think he's a great director, or he has the capacity to be a talented director. But you can't deny that I think both of us feel like this film is mediocre, but we're absolutely going to see Part 3.
I mean, yes, but I tend to watch, first, as you say, is that your husband is a diehard sci-fi reader. So is that definitely he's going to want to watch it, and you will go with him. For me, in my case, is that, well, it's going to be like visually entertaining, you know, and is that I like this universe. I think that it has like a lot of potential, but this is not exactly the way of adapting it.
I agree with you, but do you think that Dune Part 2 reached its potential?
No.
I agree.
No. But it's... A part of me just thinks, is like, should this has been adapted as a series of movies? And my answer is no, it shouldn't. I know that it was a TV adaptation that people say that it was like really good with James McAvoy. That I'm like really curious to watch.
That's available now?
I don't know if it's available. Like, I mean, pretty sure that Warner Bros. Tried to remove that from the face of the earth, so people would watch the Villeneuve version.
Huh.
So, but I think that it was a ticket box success, so that means that we will have more Dune.
Well, we wanted to talk about this on the podcast, and neither one of us could get tickets to IMAX.
Yeah.
It was sold out for weeks and weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I was like super lucky on just getting tickets for a cinema out of town that we had to drive. I mean, not that much, but it was like driving like 20 minutes for getting to the cinema. And it was also sold out. It was completely full. So I'm happy for Villeneuve for just being able to drag people to the cinema, as Christopher Nolan and Greta Gerwig also succeeded on doing that.
You cannot compare Barbie to
I'm
this.
not comparing them as quality of movie. I'm comparing in succeeding on bringing people back to the cinema.
That's fair.
And I don't know if you remember when Dune, like the first part, came out. It came out at the same time on HBO Max. I started watching like 10 minutes of it, and when I got like to one of the first scenes, I don't know if it was in Iraqis, I was like, I need to watch this on the cinema. This is like the kind in IMAX. I need to watch it in a gigantic screen with an amazing quality. I have like a 65-inch TV, but it was like, no, it has to be larger. It has to be an IMAX.
So you stopped
screen.
and went to the theater?
And I went to the theater.
Did you see it with your boyfriend?
Yes.
And he's not a sci-fi fan?
No.
What did he think?
He was like, okay.
Right.
You know, when you go to watch something that is like, this was not for me. I'm not going to say if it's good or bad, but it's that this was not for me.
Recently, your boyfriend told me he thought The Lobster was better than Poor Things, so I honestly trust him more than you at this point.
Okay, do you want a new co-host for the next podcast?
Yes, just bring your boyfriend.
Regardless of that commentary, you know, about Yorgos Lanthimos' work, I think that in this case, this is a movie that you can watch, enjoy, but it's more a movie that is playing there. And if you are not that interested in the story, it's not going to be like changing your mind.
I agree. I feel like this film, and I mentioned this to you earlier today, this is more like a Marvel film, where it's like you can go and enjoy it 100%. Yeah. It's going to be compelling enough as a sci-fi film, but in terms of being a great adaptation or, well, I don't even know what to say. It's entertaining, it's just not important at all. And we're going to forget about this. Again, after we all go see Dune Part 3 in 2026, we will forget about this.
Look, the Oscars just happened a couple of weeks ago. No, if we actually think about like the movies that they were nominated and who won, if I compare from an importance perspective, something like Poor Things, Oppenheimer even, or Barbie, I think that Dune is not on the same league. This is a blockbuster, a pure blockbuster, you know, and it's not that it has like incredible values, because for example, you could say Mad Max, Fury Road, you watch it, no?
Yep.
And I think it's like, okay, you know, it's like the female characters are like decently depicted. If you remember, it's like Furiosa is like, okay, it's a cool character. It's like she doesn't need like rescue as a damsel in distress. She can hold her ground.
But I feel like the two blockbusters you just mentioned, Oppenheimer and...
Barbie?
No.
Poor Things?
Yes, so there's a differentiator between blockbusters that are completely inane.
Yes.
And blockbusters that are well written. And I'm not the biggest fan of Oppenheimer, but obviously Oppenheimer is a better film than Dune.
Yes, and I'm saying that it's not only about like being a better film, because you can have entertaining blockbusters. It's just important to, you know, there is like some kind of message associated with it. I don't think if you want to get a message out of Dune, is when things become weirder, because then you go into the white messiah kind of complex, and almost colonization. Everything just becomes not okay.
So when you turned 40 for your birthday, we rented a theater and we went and saw Jurassic Park. And while it's not your favorite movie, you admitted it's
really well made. Yeah.
Do you think that in 20 years we could rent a theater and watch Dune and you could have the same approach to Jurassic Park where you're like, oh, this is good and entertaining?
No, I haven't read a Michael Crichton novel. Did you read it?
Yeah.
How it compares with the movie?
But outside of how the adaptation is, the way Steven Spielberg did Jurassic Park, it's good. It stands up 30 years later.
Well, because maybe he was concerned less into just being a good adaptation or creating a good adaptation. He was more concerned in doing a good movie.
Yes, but my point is Jurassic Park was a blockbuster in 97, 96, whenever it came out. We watched it in 2022, 2021.
2020.
And we were like, okay, it's not our favorite thing, but it's good. I don't think we would feel the same about Dune. Dune Part 2. Dune Part 1 is super boring. It's even worse than Dune Part 2.
So if you remember when we rented the theater, there was a list of 15 movies, you know. So there were a couple of current movies, like Tenet was there, if you remember.
Yep.
And then there were classic movies, like Beetlejuice and this. Jurassic Park, I mean. I cannot foresee a future where this is there. This is on that list of movies, but I can tell you like the same about most of the Marvel movies, or I don't know, like the new Star Wars movies.
But let me ask you this: when you turn 50 in,
some years, just leave it there, please.
yes, there are 50 movies you can choose. Jurassic Park is there. Dune Part 2. Which one do you choose?
So you said me that there are like 50 movies, so there are other 48 ones. I hope that there's one.
Beetlejuice, green fried tomatoes.
What the? Thelma Louise.
Exactly. The Kirsten Dunst cheerleading movie. Bring It On.
Bring It On. Yeah. Let's see. Selection.
Would you choose Dune Part 2?
No, I would choose Selection.
You can't just bring an Alexander Payne film into this. You hate Alexander Payne.
No, I discovered...
You refuse to watch Election.
No, you are the one.
I love Election.
We always say that it's a bit of a guilty pleasure. And it's like, I'm a bit afraid about how I'm going to be feeling about Election when we end up watching it.
I'm just saying, if you had the same selection when you turned 40 and you chose Jurassic Park, because it was the best of 15 movies, not the best of all cinema. When you turn 50 and there's the same shitty selection, but Dune Part 2 and Jurassic Park are there, what do you choose?
Dude, I wouldn't watch Jurassic Park again, but I wouldn't watch Dune Part 2.
Okay, so you wouldn't choose either of them.
I would actually watch Beetlejuice before watching Dune Part 2.
Okay, so that's the answer to my question.
Because at least there has like a nostalgic value. But we also have to think that most of those movies, they were associated with nostalgic value. And it's that we are in an age that is that right now we don't have the same nostalgic perception.
But we agreed after watching Jurassic Park that it's a good movie, not just for nostalgia.
Sure, it's a good movie, but also just think that it was when it was released. That is that most of the effects are really ahead of its time.
And my point is that Denis Villeneuve had hundreds of millions of dollars to show these worms, and despite all of that, you wouldn't choose to watch it at your 50th birthday party because it's not good. It's fine. It's entertaining for now, but it's not something you're going to want to watch in 10 years.
Okay, let's just be completely honest, because Jurassic Park is entertaining. It's a good summer blockbuster kind of movie, but it's not a Criterion Collection movie.
Sure, but Dune Part 2 was trying to be exactly that, and it's not.
I think that it tried something else. It tried like really hard to, hey, you hardcore sci-fi lover that is out there, this movie is for you. This is your wet dream becoming that movie.
Yes, and that's why I watched it with my husband. He loves sci-fi, but you and I as cinema lovers, will never choose to watch this on a 50th birthday.
Well, but I can tell you, I would choose Blade Runner.
But again, I'm just saying, Blade Runner is elevated sci-fi.
Yeah, noir. So is that for me, it just mixes like two things that I love, sci-fi and noir.
Dune Part 2 is not elevated.
No, it's not.
No. Right.
Look, I don't... Maybe we don't have to get into such a specific scenario. It's like age of 40 birthdays. You do like exactly what we did like 10 years ago. Let's just leave it with like, hey, this is a movie that time is going to forget.
All I'm trying to say is that Jurassic Park is better than Dune Part 2.
What does it matter, dude? What does it matter? It's like Jurassic Park.
Get it. Yeah.
We remember it because it was at that time that it generated like a lot of nostalgia for us. But if you put like a 20-year-old kid, you made them watch Jurassic Park for the first time, I'm not sure how they will react to it.
That's fair. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Jurassic Park was not elevated. It was a blockbuster film.
That it was well done.
Well done.
Yeah.
Nobody is going to say in 15, 20, 25 years, Dune was a blockbuster that had a cultural impact.
Yeah. I don't disagree. And a part of me is getting a bit, not upset, but a bit tired of Villeneuve. Is that I think that Prisoners was okay. I like Enemy.
You loved Enemy.
I love Enemy, okay.
I do too.
Okay, let's be on the same page here. Our friend Edwin didn't, but doesn't matter. I really like Arrival. I think that is a good sci-fi movie. And I think that is his best sci-fi movie. But Dune Part 1 and Part 2, I think that it gets out of hand. Blade Runner 2049,
yep.
It's not that good. I'm sorry, we have discussed like many times, and it's like the larger the scope, the worse he becomes as a storyteller.
That's fair.
So I just think that it's I don't know if Villeneuve needs a screenwriter like to just hone like these scripts into something that is more enjoyable, because Arrival, funny enough, it was like a short story of 30 or 50 pages.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he turned it into this 90-minute movie that is pretty moving. I like it. I like the character of Amy Adams quite a bit.
I actually really like that genre because of Brokeback Mountain.
Who?
Brokeback Mountain?
No, but who you like?
Annie Proulx.
Who was?
Brokeback Mountain was a short story of 7 pages.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And it was turned into a feature-length film by Ang Lee. Yep.
Yeah. But what I mean is like those cases was like a small story that it turned into a full story. Is like they were capable of actually adding enough details for just turning it there. So I think that they can edit up, but I think that Villeneuve cannot edit down.
Do you know who wrote Enemy?
Originally Saramago. Jose Saramago.
Really?
Yeah, it's basing a short story by Saramago.
But who adapted it?
I think that it was... Oh, now you're making me doubt. I thought that it was him, but now... Enemy movie... Sorry, we don't have our laptops here, so it becomes a bit harder to just find this type of information on the flight. And... I need to go to here. Read them.
I'm guessing it was Villeneuve, right?
I think that it was Villeneuve, so I think that this script is the part that I feel is that now you're getting to a point that you're giving like larger budget and more freedom. And I don't think that he benefits from that. I think that he will be like better the other way around. The same way that with Christopher Nolan, also I have like the same feeling of the more budget that you give him, the more like gigantic things balloon into, is that the less enjoyable they can be,
If it was studio money, I want to know who the person was like that saw Enemy and was like, let's give this guy $500 million to make Dune.
Yeah, so it was not Villeneuve who wrote Enemy. In Arrival, God, the Wi-Fi here is terrible.
So at least he's not writing his own bad films. Not that Enemy is bad.
Screenwriter Eric Heiser conceiving or the popular. It was someone else, Arrival. And now who wrote Blade Runner 2049? Blade Runner 2049.
Does he have any upcoming projects?
I don't know. Blade Runner 2049 was also written by other people. So he may not be the one that writes these things. Maybe I shouldn't be blaming him, because I think that from a directing perspective, it's a visual spectacle. So cinematography and directing may be okay.
But also, you and I both agree that he has a tremendous talent when the scope of the story is finite, like Enemy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that Prisoners, it also works well, because the story is pretty self-contained.
But again, he's not a terrible director for these epic blockbusters. It's just that the films are like, eh.
Yeah, so he actually co-wrote Dune with John Spites. I don't know, dude. I just feel like the script is not good. The visual spectacle can take you some distance, but then what is happening on the screen is not compelling. The flow is broken, and you are concerned into just like the adaptation, because maybe this guy was like, I owe this to people because they have been waiting since David Lynch mangled this completely.
And Jodorowsky.
Yeah, well, Jodorowsky never finished the project.
But people are bitter about that.
Because he didn't finish it?
Yeah, because they were waiting for the Jodorowsky version.
I have to say that would have been a very interesting adaptation from what I see on the documentary.
Would it have been? We've seen Jodorowsky films and it's like, eh.
Well, what I mean is like it's interesting from the perspective of eventually would turn into a train wreck. Yes. There is no way that what he had in mind, it was like so ambitious, and at the same time I think that he hadn't even read the book.
It was too much.
Yeah. There is this is going to fail at some point. Now it's only the matter of when. And at least it failed like on very early stages. So people could move on and just forget that ever happened.
So I think we agree that this film is fine. It was enough as an entertaining blockbuster, but it wasn't great.
No, it wasn't great. Should we sort of go over the questions?
Yes.
Would you watch it again?
The answer is yes, because, as I said, I will absolutely see Dune Part 3, and I will probably watch Dune Part 1 and 2 in preparation. I watched Dune Part 1 in preparation for Dune Part 2.
That's a good angle. I said initially no, but I'm going to change to yes, from the perspective that is like, I didn't remember anything of the first movie, so...
I didn't either, but I watched it.
Yeah, I only use like what I remember from the books. I'm all, oh yeah, I think that this is what is going to happen. So, would you recommend it?
Nope. I mean, if someone was like, hey, I saw Dune Part 1, do you have a recommendation? Yes, Dune Part 2.
Would your husband recommend it?
No, I think... When we left the theater, again, I said it was fine, but it's not important. And he said, that's a perfect way to describe it. It's not an important film.
Yeah. Same for me. I cannot imagine a situation where I would recommend it. Would you remember it?
Nope.
No, I mean neither. And we already said that the only reason why we watch it again is for just catching up before part 3.
Yep.
So, is there anything artistic about it?
I would say yes. It's visually stunning. It really is.
Yeah, same here. As I was telling you, the fight in the Harkonnen planet, I felt like this is amazing. Like the sandworms. I think that they could have been portrayed a bit better. There are like sometimes that is like it almost feels that you don't want to show them fully until towards the end. But why are you doing that?
But also Christopher Walken, Florence Pugh, Skarsgård, whatever his first name is. Yeah. The cast is exceptional. Timothée Chalamet, as much as I want to hate him, he's okay. Talented.
Yeah, I still want to see him keep growing. as in other roles, because this hasn't been my highlight of him, and I don't like Call Me by Your Name. So,
What's wrong with you? You're gay.
yeah, but I'm not a pedophile. Is it a timeless piece? Dune Part 2?
I would say yes, mostly thinking about how timely the David Lynch version is. In comparison, yes. Like, this could be consumed in 2050, and people would have the same opinion that we do today.
Yeah, I mean, I go with yes, is that this is a 50-year-old book. And it doesn't really feel like a 50-year-old, like, original work. You know, I think that the special effects and the directing is, like, pretty okay. And if it's watched, like, 50 years in the future, it's still going to be, like, pretty okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Would you turn this into a TV show?
Nope.
I'm going to go with yes, but I'm going to go with yes because I think that the material, not what we saw in Part 2, but the original material, it actually will fit better into a TV show than this.
I could see that. My answer is still no.
Okay. Could this have been a short?
No. There's too much material.
Yeah, I will go with no too. There is nothing there. Like, there is no way of compacting this into an hour. Do you think that this movie could have been better?
Yes, I think a better script and more tight editing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Is as I was telling you, the pacing in some parts, it made me feel is that you feel like this is important, but if it's important, why is it only lasting 3 seconds?
Also, just cut out Zendaya. She was fine, but insignificant.
It was transcendental for the overall story, because it's like at the end, like, Paul is going to do whatever.
He's the Messiah. Go save the people. He doesn't need to have a love interest.
Yeah. So it felt a bit more like, is this like supposed to be Maria Magdalena, or what is going on right now? So yeah, better editing, better script, and I think that would change quite a bit. So that was the last question. And I guess that we have to score, as you said that this was my pick.
It was absolutely your pick.
I guess that you have to score it first.
Ooh, I don't know if it's a 7 or a 6.5. I'm going to go with 6.75.
That's exactly my score. Because I was exactly under the same thing of this. I feel dirty saying that this is a 7 after everything that we said about it.
It's not that great, but it's fine. It's entertaining, and that's all we need it to be.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want it to be like our Messiah coming to Earth, but I expected more.
I did too.
And I think that I can check like the score that we get to the first one, but I think they were like between 7 and 8. We gave it a higher score.
Oh, that bums me out because I do think this is better than the first film.
I don't think so.
No?
I mean, for me. I'm not saying that it's like you are wrong. I'm just saying that it's like, for me, I think that the first one, I see the stop at a point that I say, it's like, hey, the second one may be better. It's like they are just leaving it here because there is a lot of stuff. And I thought that the first part that they did with Oscar Isaac, like the scene with Charles Rampling, I felt it's like, oh, you know, this is cool. This is actually well done. It's like it's part of the original book. And also David Lynch did that I felt is, hey, this is actually amazingly portrayed. And on this one I just felt it's like, look, more sand, worms, sand.
So,
the Harkonnen planet, sand.
Because I rewatched part 1, I was particularly influenced by the scene where Oscar Isaac was naked and bit the poison pill. That was a good scene.
Oh yeah.
And there was nothing like that in part 2.
Yeah. Doesn't he actually like just bite the poison pill and tries to murder all of them?
Everyone.
Yeah. And then the Baron like just floats above in a corner to survive.
That's how he survived, yep.
Yeah. So, and I remember like seeing that and saying like, this is amazingly directed about like the composition. He just in a corner. It's like, this is pretty cool. I didn't see anything like that.
Yep. No.
So on the second
There was
one,
nothing that compelling.
yeah, and I just feel this is something that happens a lot with sci-fi, that you have like a really good first book, and there are like many sagas of this style that is like then everything starts like going downhill. From time to time you may have like something that is okay, but everything lives a lot from the popularity of the first book. And I had the feeling that Villeneuve is achieving that with this. So I think that the third one is not going to be good.
I don't think so either. And even me, who's not a fan, was super excited when Paul became an asshole at the end, and he was like, "I'm the Messiah.
Yeah.
Fuck all of you. I'm gonna save you." Yeah. I enjoyed that so much, but not as much as that scene in the first film when Oscar Isaac died. I was like, this is super compelling.
Yeah. So I had the feeling that in Cinematic Dogma, our upcoming podcast in a couple of years, if we're still around, is that we will watch part 3, and it's not going to be pretty.
It's going to be the same review as Dune Part 1, Dune Part 2. We're like, we had to watch this, but it's fine.
So, to be fair, when we actually watched Part 1, it was pretty close to when we watched David Lynch Dune. And that's the reason why we did a bonus episode about like, let's not wait to publish this. Is that that's all we'll just talk about David Lynch Dune, let's just publish it now. Is that with this one, I think that we're going to be like waiting until he's running its course. It's the 250 plus 1 episode, because it's not that important. It's not that we felt like passionate about it. With the other one, I think that we felt is like, this was good. This was actually enjoyable. Here, it's not that enjoyable.
Yep, I agree.
So, but yeah, I think that was it. We are living a bit of a sour note.
This is the end of Gaybros.
Yeah.
Coming soon.
Yeah.
Cinematic Dogma.
Yeah. Just thank you so much. Thank you so much if you have been listening from the beginning. Sorry for all of the background noise that we had in the past.
And until our new rebranding.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.